Hey,
Hi
friends.
guys, welcome back.
All right, we're excited because we are now ready to review. So pull out your review book. This was in your packet pickup from the first 2 weeks. You have it. You're flipping to this second page that says place value. All right, and that's going to be our first lesson today.
If you
So
don't
you'll
have, I'm sorry, Mrs. Moore. If you don't have a colored pencil or a marker or a pencil, please go get that now.
highlighter, whatever you need. All right, so this is the table of contents. This is the front, write your name on it. And we are starting page 1, place value. That's going to be your review lesson for the next 2 days. So here we go.
Okay, this is what your place value page looks like. We're gonna zoom in and go step by step. This is basically a book of anchor charts for you. So as you're filling in the anchor charts, you have these forever and ever. So keep this book. You'll use it again in 5th grade, and it'll be very helpful for you to get ready for that. Okay, if you look at the top part, we started at the beginning of the year talking about place value, and we know that we have a base 10 system. So what that means is when I'm going from my ones place value to my tens place value, it is 10 times bigger. Then when I bounce to my hundreds place value, again, it's 10 times larger than the tens place value. So in your anchor chart book, what I want you to do is I want you to draw exactly that. So I want you to draw this little arrow, and then in each arrow, I want you to write times 10, times 10, times 10, so that you can see how the numbers move through our number system. So pause the video and go do that right now. We also know that if we go the other direction, I'm dividing by 10 as I'm going from one place value to the other. So for example, if I look at my hundreds place value, the tens place value is 10 times less, or divided by 10, to get to that new place value. So take a different colored marker if you want, or you can use the same one. Draw the arrows going this way, and this time please write divided by 10.
Awesome job explaining that. And that's why the zero trick works for multiplication and division. So
right.
The zeros, counting and taking away the zeros, is the jumps that Ms. Patterson just explained. Do you mind clicking the next slide?
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Moore.
All right, we have different numbers on our pages that we have at home. All right, so the number we're talking about today is 506,974. So standard form is just written like a normal number. So standard form, think of it number form, that's it. All right, and then moving on to word form, how you say the number out loud, 506,000. When you say that last name, the place value where it's sitting, that's when the comma comes in, 974. So what I just said out loud, matching the standard form number of the number, is what you exactly write out. So 506,000, comma, make sure you put the comma, 974. The spelling can be a little tricky, but we have this one for you. So again, just read it once and then twice and make sure it actually matches your standard number form as well. And then moving to the bottom, expanded form, you can see that this is where the number is decomposed by place value. So you start with the largest place value, which is 100,000. So the 5 is sitting in the 100,000, so it's worth 500,000. So if I was in class, I'd be sitting down in each place value, acting it out. So 500,000 plus 6,000. Notice you do not have to include the 0 that is sitting in the 10,000 spot. So you just leave that part blank. And then the 9 is sitting in the hundreds, so plus 900, 7 sitting in the tenths, so plus 70, plus 4 is sitting in the ones. And then when you add it all up, it should equal your original number in standard form. As you can see, they match. And then over in the little purple bubble, that is just a different way to show expanded form. It's the same thing. It's like stacking and adding the number up. And when you add it, all the zeros, again, the number matches. So that's the vertical way, and then the horizontal way is what we just went over as well. So those are your 3 different number forms. All the same value and worth, it's just a different way to write the number.
So make sure you pause the video and put that in your anchor chart book too.
And copy those words, spell them correctly since we've done it for you.
Yep. Okay, the last thing on this anchor chart page is rounding. So remember that when I'm rounding, there are a couple of rules that I have to remember. So when it tells me to round to a certain place value, that's the place value that I underline. So in this number, I'm rounding to the nearest thousands place, in this number to the nearest 10,000s, and then in this last number, the nearest thousands place. Remember that after I underline that number, I look next door, and the number that's sitting beside it tells that underlined number what to do. So if it's 0 through 4, it has to stay the same. 5 through 9, I'm adding 1 to the number. So let's look at this first one. I have 28,823. So it wants me to round it to the nearest thousands place. So I'm going to underline that 8. I look next door, and that 8, he's kind of like the boss, he tells the other 8 what to do. Since he's bigger than 5, I have to add 1 to this 8 and change him into a 9. All the other numbers change to 0, and my answer is 29,000. So when I'm thinking about this original number, I'm looking at, is this number closer to 28,000 or 29,000 on a number line? And because that 8 is an 8 and it's bigger than 5, it's closer to 29,000.
Great job explaining. All right, so the next one, we are rounding to the 10,000th place. That's where the 4 is sitting. Underline it, and then draw your arrow next door. So we are looking at the 4 and the 2. So 0 to 4 stays the same, or another riddle is 4 less, let it rest, 5 or more, raise the score. So the same thing as explained there, just a different way to say it. So it is less than 5, so you're letting it rest. Rest means that 2 turns to a 0. So it's circled, it turns to a 0, and then everything else stays the same to the left. The 3 and the 4 does not change because, again, you're adding nothing. And then everything to the right of where you were actually rounding changes to a 0 as well. So fill in those remaining zeros. The answer is 340,000. If you think about it on a number line, 342,082 is closer to 340,000 than 350,000.
Perfect. All right, and then the last one, these are the trickier ones where I'm dealing with nines. So again, I'm rounding to the nearest thousands place. I look next door. The 9 tells him to bump up. Well, I can't put a 10 in this spot, so my 1 has to be regrouped over my 2 so that it's closest to 30,000. So remember, these were the only weird ones where the 9 has to bump up 1 to 10. I write him as a 0, carry the 1, so it's 30,000. So 29,995 is closer to 30,000 than 29,000. Okay? On the back of this anchor chart, and we didn't really talk about the stuff at the bottom, but at the bottom, there's a lot of really helpful stuff for you to practice these skills. We'll talk a little bit more about these later, but they are right there for you. You can even continue to do some of this in the summer to prepare for 5th grade. So those are there for you. If you look at the back page, all of these problems are related to place value. So you'll notice after we do the anchor chart, we're going to do 6 problems together to review place value. And then we'll go over the answers in just a minute. So take a couple of minutes to solve these 6 problems. Pause the video. If it takes you 5 minutes, great. If it takes you 25 minutes, that's fine too. Pause it and then come back to us in just a second. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully we're unpaused now. Here are the answers to those 6 questions, and we're going to go through each one to let you know what the right answer is and why that's the right answer.
All right, so number 1 and 6, hopefully you tried them, even if the wording was a little confusing. The other ones should be pretty straightforward. So once you understand number 1, 6 will be easier. All right, so for number 1, the first thing you need to do when you're comparing place value is underline the digits or the number or whatever place value is talking about. So for this one, we're underlining all the 4s in every single one, okay? So as you can see, the answer is A, but I want to explain why the answer is A. So we're thinking back to the anchor chart that Miss Patterson just explained at the top where she's explaining the jumps. That's exactly what you're doing here. So in A, you can see the first 4 is sitting in the 10,000s place, and then in the second number, the 4 is sitting in the tens. So over where she wrote 10 times 10 times 10, that is how many jumps to go from the 4 sitting in 81,540 over to the 4 sitting in 49,823. So 3 jumps is 10 times 10 times 10. When you do that out, that is a factor of 1,000. So that's what it means. So A is the only one that has the 3 jumps, therefore 1,000, factor of 1,000, like the question asked.
Perfect. And number 2 is pretty straightforward. We know that when we're comparing numbers, we look at the largest place value and compare the digits. So in the first one, the 6 and the 5 are the same, and then the number that's different is 1 versus 0. That one would have been okay if they flipped this sign around, but 651,000 is not less than 650,000. So I'm going to use that same strategy all the way down, and when I get to D, that is the one that makes the most sense, or that is correct. So I've got 12,000 versus 12,000. My 1s are the same, my 2s are the same. When I get to the hundreds place value, I'm looking at a 6 versus a 5. And we know that 600 is greater than 500. So that is the correct answer for number 2.
Awesome. And then moving on to 3, it says the 5 in 54,109 is how many times bigger than the 5 in 75,430? So underline those 5s if you have it. You're comparing the 2. We know in the second number, the 5 is sitting in the thousands. In the first number, it's sitting in the 10,000. So you're picturing that number line, or you can flip and look at your actual anchor chart on the front and see that from thousands place to 10,000s place, it is 1 jump of the place value. So when you have 1 jump to the left, it is 10 times larger. So A is 10.
Perfect. Okay, in number 4, first I would need to write the standard form of 340,617. I know that would be 340, 617. So when I look at all of these, I'm trying to figure out which one gives me that answer. And I get to B and C, and they're both right. They're both 340,617. But the reason why B is a better answer than C is because this 340,000 is not an expanded form. I need it to be broken down into 300,000 plus 40,000 plus 600 plus 10 plus 7. So yes, they both are the right standard form, but B is the only one that's in expanded form.
All right, and number 5 is pretty straightforward. The numbers are already stacked up for you. So when you're comparing numbers and they're not stacked, it's a great idea to stack them how they already are in the answer choices. So you can see the answer is C. And when we're comparing numbers by place value, you start in the 100,000s. That's the largest place value here, all 1s, and then move over 10,000s, all 5s, then move over. Oh, you can mark out B, it's a 2, and then you're left with the 3s. And then ultimately it comes down to the 10s place. And C, it's an 8, and in A, it's also an 8. But the 7 sitting in the 1s in option C is larger than 1. So 7 is larger than 1, so therefore C, 153,987 is the largest number of the 4 available.
Perfect. And the last one, number 6, Mrs. Moore already kind of talked about this one. It's very similar to number 1, only this time I'm looking at the digit 7, or the number 7, and now I'm looking at a factor of 100. So that's just 2 jumps. It's 10 times 10. So I'm looking for a 7 that's 2 place values away from the other 7. So like Mrs. Moore said, we should underline these 7s so that we can see them a little bit better, or highlight them. That's almost even better. This in B, you can see that this 7 is sitting in the thousands place. This 7 is sitting in the 100,000s place. And so that is 2 jumps away from the thousands place. So that's why B is the right answer. So that is everything that you need to know about place value. We will be back with you later to continue going through our review book. So thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. See you later.